a bit better from this weird movie. And yeah, it was a bit fun. Megamind! Definitely in A tier. The characters are almost everything about it so fun and enjoyable, and I like the songs that they use in it. The songs have some vibe to it that works to make it so fun, and the characters are pretty enjoyable, and the growth of Megamind into it was pretty fun, and yeah, and I say that, and yeah, and it's pretty funny. I would say it's a bit of a, I would say it's a bit funnier than Shrek 1, but I would say Shrek 1 was a bit, it has some clever ways, but this one is a bit of a funny movie. But, and I like the way that's done, and the story was pretty creative and well written. Kung Fu Panda 2. Let's go. Definitely in S tier. And it's a bit better than the first one. Because I'll say the growth of pose in it was a bit enjoyable, and it was, I'll say it was a bit less funny from the first one, but I'll say the emotional from this one is a bit strong, and yeah, and it makes it pretty emotional by the way, and also it's pretty dark than the first one. And I'll say the villain from this one is a bit improvement from this one, so that's what makes it. And yeah, and the characters from the first one are pretty and works well. And yeah, it's pretty fun still. Pose and Boots. I rather say I'll put it to the low S tier. Yeah. And it was pretty fun. And I'll say I have fun with it's a pretty fun and enjoyable journey. And I say it was a pretty kind of, I would say it's kind of creative by making it a bit different, and I like Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots is a pretty fun character that I like in in the second one. And yeah, I like the newer characters like Kitty Sawballs. Like Kitty Sawballs was a bit of a good character and pretty interesting, and has some ways that was pretty fun of it. Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. I'll say it's probably a little better from the second one, because I had much fun in this one than these other two. I had much fun, and I like the side character stories of it, and I felt pretty invested. And the villain was pretty fun and enjoyable. The villain was so fun and enjoyable, and her scenes were are pretty fun. And I would say I would say it was kind of funny in the movie. But this one was, I think, this one has a better comedy, but this one still fun and enjoyable and pretty funny, kind of funny. Rise of the Guardians, definitely in A tier. Which way do I put it? I'll put it there. Rise of the Guardians is is great, almost great. Like the characters, I like the creative way that I like the creative way that like if they exist, then if if the kids believe, then they exist and they can see them, which it makes it a bit creative of it. And yeah, it was pretty fun, and I like the characters. The characters are pretty good, and pretty good and enjoyable. But and the villain was okay. The villain was okay, but didn't make me. He was a pretty good antagonist, but didn't have enough for him to make it a bit interesting. Let's go to Croods. To my opinion, A tier. I'll say it's a bit of a fun adventure, and I'll say the characters were pretty interesting, and the story was a bit fun and enjoyable, and it was kind of funny. It was a kind of funny movie, and I like the environment of the world. The world looks creative, and the designs of the animals around it are pretty great. Are pretty creative. Terrible. Nothing much, but I'd rather say it has some ways that tried its best to make it a bit interesting enough. And yeah, it's an interesting movie that I don't know why it exists. It's just a movie that exists. I will say that way. Anyways, How to Train Your Dragon 2. I'll say a little better improvement, but not higher from Prince of Egypt. I'll say this is a bit of a better one, and I'll say the music of it is pretty phenomenal and fun and enjoyable. And I'll say the growth of Hiccup in this one is a bit interesting and fun. And I'll say the villain from this one was a bit pretty good. He's a pretty great villain and an interesting one. He's pretty interesting and cool. And yeah, but yeah, and also the story was a bit enjoyable and fun. And yeah, but yeah, the only thing that keeps it down is the side characters. The side characters were pretty annoying. It's probably a bit more annoying than this one, but I'll say this one was a bit much enjoyable. Oh, sorry, guys. Was pretty much enjoyable and fun. Let's go to Mr. Peabody and Sherman. I'll say these are. I'll put it in a close bottom. Almost a close. Yeah, definitely bottom B tier. I would say I kind of. I was pretty enjoyable with. I was pretty enjoyable with these two characters that have some ways that some of them learns their lesson of like Mr. Peabody learning to understand to be learning to Sherman, and Sherman learns to be of a to learn of some ways that makes him to make it a bit better. And yeah, I like the way that they go to different worlds, and yeah, some of the characters were pretty enjoyable and fun, and the story was a bit, and yeah, it was a pretty cute fun adventure. Penguins of Madagascar. And I would say it was pretty fun, and I liked, and I felt invested with Private. And Skipper was pretty annoying. Sometimes he was pretty annoying. Oh my god, he's way more annoying than these other three movies from it. That he was like, he was pretty annoying, and I felt invested with Private, and I like the villain. The villain was a pretty enjoyable and a bit cool. But yeah, I felt invested with Private's story, and I feel bad, and I felt and I felt into it, and I feel bad for him too, the way of it. And yeah, the other characters were pretty enjoyable, and yeah, the story was a bit simple and kind of funny. Home, which we're in the era that I rather call this era that we're at now the kiddie-ish era. I'll say that way. Home in the Sea Terror is a cute. I was always cute, and some of the characters were okay and enjoyable. And yeah, I have fun to it. And nothing much. It was a kind of fun event. Kind of fun, and I kind of like the characters. And yeah, Kung Fu Panda 3. It's still gonna be an S tier, but I'll put it in not the lower, but in the middle. I'll say I had pretty much had much fun in this, and yeah, the characters were pretty fun and enjoyable, and I'll say the growth of Poe, and I like the growth of Poe's father, of him understanding to be learning to these things that he needs to be much better than he is, and yeah, I felt understandable with it, and Oogway is in this, which I love Oogway. He's great. He's pretty enjoyable. And I say Kai was a bit better villain from Tai Long. And he was pretty enjoyable and have some scenes that makes him a bit of intimidated, but not too intimidated. But he's kind of he's a bit of a better improvement, but not good enough for me to like Lord Shang. Okay, Boss Baby. Oh no, not yet. Oh, Trolls. Trolls. I would rather say I put in B, a low B tier. I rather say it's a cute fun, and I kind of like the characters. The characters were some. I like some. I like the main characters. The two main characters were pretty enjoyable and a bit fun. And I kind of like the villain. The villain was pretty intimidating enough to make it enjoyable. And yeah, and I kind of enjoyed the vibe to it of the songs, and I'll say it has some ways that works to it. And I'll say it was a pretty cute adventure and nothing much, but just pretty good and kind of fun. Boss Baby. The one thing I give him in a high D is I kind of like the creativity in the beginning of the way of it, but it's a weird movie that's a bit confusing and I don't like it and I don't get it and it's also pretty weird. But there's some parts that could be enjoyable but not in the best way. Captain Underpants. Woo, woo. Oh, it's pretty. Oh yeah. I'll definitely put in a pretty como pretty much um high B tier. I would say the first two part in the story was pretty fun. I would say the third part was kinda weak, but and I like the style. The style is creative and great and so good and yeah the toilet humor is pretty creative and it's pretty funny. Oh, it's pretty funny and enjoyable and I like it and it's pretty funny. How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. One of you most of you in the that watch this video will probably disagree with me, but it's my opinion. To my opinion,